Commanders family, another special episode of Next Man Up for you as you gear up for the holidays. We have Noah Igbinoghene joining the show to talk about being a former first-round pick, the pressure that left on him, and what it's been like being able to rejuvenate his career in the burgundy and gold. Then, one of the best to ever do it, a Redskins legend, Mark Rypien, joins the show to talk about winning Super Bowl MVP and what that meant for him, his fondest memories rocking the burgundy and gold, and what he's seen from this team, and specifically, Jaden Daniels. All that and more right now on Next Man Up.
Scratch is so nice, gotta hear it twice.
Commanders family, for our Next Man Up, we had to bring somebody from the secondary in. Number one, man, always the coolest number on the field, Noah Igbinoghene. Brother, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Good, man. It's a blessing.
Yes, sir, man. It's our first time getting to really sit down and rap, man. So first things first, bro. You told me you new to the DMV, man. How's it been being here and adjusting?
Man, like I said before, it's been a blessing, man. Been nothing but good to me. I was telling you before, man, I ain't never really been out here before, but, you know, it's new. The weather's, you know, it's a little different.
Cold, a little cold.
Just a little different, but it's been good to me, so I'm just glad to be here, bro.
Yes, sir, man. And so you had been in Miami, then you were in Dallas for a little bit, then you come here. What goes to the decision-making, deciding to come be a Washington Commander?
I think, so last year I was in Dallas, of course, with DQ and Joe Witt, and just being in that system, and, you know, when the opportunity opened up for me, and I talked to DQ about it, honestly, I felt like it was just something I was called to do, and you know, I just took that leap of faith. Honestly, didn't know if I was going to go back to Dallas or, you know, where I was going to go, honestly. But when DQ kind of texted me and called me, and, you know, I feel like it was the right decision to make. So, you know, I'm glad I made it.
What happened in that conversation that kind of swayed you and made you understand that, like, hey, this was the place to be?
Honestly, when I found out he got the job, that's when I really started thinking about it. I was like, maybe this could possibly be a thing. And then, of course, when he called me and, you know, just talked about, you know, the plans and stuff like that, and just honestly, I just knew who he was as a man and, you know, who he was as a leader, and I was excited to see, you know, the difference between him being a defensive coordinator, him being a head coach, and, you know, I knew what last year in Dallas did for me, you know, just being in his defense. So I wanted to see, you know, what it would be, how it would look like being for him being like a head coach, you know, and Joe Witt, you know, getting the opportunity to be a defensive coordinator. I just kind of wanted to see, you know, be a part of that, and, you know, it's been great so far. So.
And this is Dan Quinn's, you know, second time as a head coach. You said you wanted to see that difference. So what has been the difference that you've noticed so far?
Honestly, I wouldn't say there's necessarily like a big difference as far as just like him as a leader. It's just more so he's just leading more guys. Yeah. And because last year, you know, it was McCarthy, you know, being the head coach in Dallas. So what I feel like what we have as a whole team here in with the Commanders, he kind of embodied that with his defense, and I feel like that's why, you know, his defense was successful the last couple of years while he was in Dallas and even where he was at before. And so I feel like what we had last year in Dallas as a defense is he's kind of translated that to the whole team now. You know, it's kind of just cool to see, you know, him being up there and just talking like how he used to talk in defensive meetings last year. So it's a cool thing. It's a cool thing. And then seeing Joe Witt in his new position as well, you know, and it's been crazy to see everything. So I'm glad, you know, we're doing good, but we just got to keep going.
And it's wild to think that this is Joe Witt's first time being a defensive coordinator. When you talk to the brother, I feel like I'm talking to a head coach when I talk to him, the way that his brain works. So now you see him in this role. He was your secondaries coach. Now he's your defensive coordinator, man. What has it been like seeing his growth just from a player standpoint?
Of course, being a DB coach and being a defensive coordinator is a big difference.
Big difference.
So I was just seeing like the man he is and just the type of leader he is, you know, because with being the defensive coordinator, you know, you have to lead a little bit more, talk a little bit more, you know, I feel like reveal more of yourself, like who you are. You know, I've really got to see that ever since he got here. I remember interviews, you know, when he first got here, he was talking about what he wanted his defense to be in. I feel like we've embodied that, you know, and I feel like he did a really good job of picking other like coaches as well, you know, who can embody like what he wants. And it's been a blessing to be here, man. I'm glad to even be a part of all this, and, you know, just to sit here right now, it's truly amazing. So.
And have you seen anything like this where you have this mass exodus of players that come in, former players that played with Dan Quinn? You got a lot of ex-Cowboys, a lot of your former teammates. Have you seen anything like that? And then when you do see something like that, what does that speak to about the way that Dan Quinn's regarded around the league?
Honestly, I haven't seen it like that, but I think that just goes to show you know who he is. You know who he is as a man. You know, it's easy, you know, get in front of these cameras and act like you are somebody, but, you know, when you get a chance to be around him. You don't even have to talk to him. When you just, watch how you move, you get what I'm saying? Like, you can really see who he is, and he's a real genuine person. He's a real dude, and I feel like that's why, this team, I'm just speaking for me, I can't wait to go out there and play for him. Just to make plays for him, make plays for this team. And it's been a blessing so far, and, man, I'm just glad to be here, like I keep saying, bro. So,
and you make that leap of faith to come out here, because that's what it is, right? Whenever you make a change, whenever you make a move, it's a leap of faith. And you come out here, how do you feel you've been able to ingrain yourself in this defense and the impact you've been able to make so far? How's it been?
It's been great. It's been great. I feel like, of course, I took a step forward in my career. This has been like life-changing for me this year, honestly, and God has blessed me. And I didn't know, like I said, I took that leap of faith. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew, I was going to put the work in, and whatever was going to come to me, whatever opportunity was going to look like, I was going to work through it and continue to get better through it. And they did a really good job of explaining. I mean, I knew the defense last year, so I feel like that was another reason, why I kind of got a heads up with that. But of course, playing a new position a little bit, playing inside. I was outside when I was in Dallas, so I had to learn that. Honestly, this coaches did a really good job of, just coaching everything, and that's why I feel like, I'm playing like I'm playing right now with these coaches, and just the system. I feel like it fits me, this team, what we embody, the physicality, the aggressiveness, the man type of defense type thing. So it allows me to be free as a player and not think as much. And so that's why I feel like, the success has been how it is. So I'm just got to keep going, man. We just have to, like you talk about in team meeting, man, we at the end of the season, but I feel like we at the beginning, this is another step, where we want to go. And this is the time, we at the end, a lot of people, they kind of want to coast through the end of the season. But I feel like this is, DQ was talking about it, this is the time, we really got to grind. We really got to work if we want to get to where we want to get to, whether that's as a player, or as a team. If we want to get to that next point, we want to get to the Super Bowl, whatever it is, you have to work through it, and you have to prepare every single week, because nobody's going to give you anything, especially at these end of games. People are playing for, big time opportunities to get in the playoffs and stuff like that. So, we got to go out there and get it, every single day. I'm excited to be a part of it and see how it goes, so.
And Noah, you mentioned making those next steps. Well, when you come into the league, you're drafted in the first round. First thing, do you feel the expectations and pressure when you come into Miami and you're that first round pick? Did you feel added expectation and pressure being a first round pick?
Yeah, I did, for sure.
So when you get a change of scenery, right? Because you've done Dallas and now you're here, so this is your second change. Do you still feel that pressure on you, or now can you just play a little more free?
Honestly, I feel like that pressure came off when I, got sent to Dallas. And I really wasn't playing that much. And, it was at that point, just speaking for me, I made the decision, I was going, whatever was going to happen after that, I wasn't going to feel like how I felt. I honestly, I didn't like not playing. I didn't like how it felt, especially, there's a lot of stories you hear, you've been successful your whole life, with sports. And that could be with anything. And then you get into a new environment, you have to learn again. You have to start over. And I would say in Miami, I didn't really do a good job at that, and so I needed, to go to Dallas and really feel how it felt, to be where I was, and in order to get up out of that and be like, man, in order to get up out of, in order for me not to feel how I'm feeling right now, I got to change, I got to change every single day. So I just decided to put my head down, and whatever was going to happen, I was going to be able to control it. And the thing is that stuck out to me, I think a sports psychologist, he had spoken in one of the meetings in Dallas, and he was like, man, you control how you play. Like, nobody else controls how you play.
Yeah.
You control how you play. So no outside source or nobody else can dictate that. And so when I really embodied that, and just, man, if you talk to Joe Witt and DQ, man, I just decided to come to work, and just to go hard every single day. And, took that leap of faith coming here, didn't know what that was going to look like or exactly. But, if you just put your head down and work, man, you'd be surprised what God would do in your life. So, yeah, man, it's been good, man.
You had the work ethic. Now you come here and you're a part of a new system that just seems to work for you.
Yeah.
You're not only a starter, but you're making real plays and making real waves. What about this system works for Noah?
I would say in Auburn, I don't know, a lot of people know my story. So my second year, I moved the corner. I played receiver, my whole life, and my second year in college, I moved the corner. And so I only played 2 years, and then God blessed me, went first round. I wasn't even thinking about coming out that year, which was crazy, but I ended up doing that and went first round, of course. But in college, there's a certain degree, of the game. And then I would say when you get to the league, there's a whole nother degree of the game that you thought you knew, but you don't, And so I had to learn that all over again, And so But just to answer your question about, what this defense and how I feel like it kind of, resonates with me, I feel like the aggressiveness of it, the physicality, allows me, to get up there and press and get up there and play free. It's not, okay, you have to play like this, you have to play like that. I get to actually choose how I want to play. So it's not like something I'm going into a game and I'm overthinking this, overthinking that. Like I know I decided like how I want to play, and I just go out there and do it.
Then they add a guy like Marshawn Lattimore to already successful secondary because you guys are playing really well. Yeah. When you see a guy like that come in that's done so much, man, what can he do for this secondary room and being a part of this Joe Witt Jr. defense, which like you said, is fast, strong, and aggressive?
I feel like him specifically, I used to watch his highlights before games in college, man. So he's that man-to-man corner, that person who can lock down, the opposite receiver and take him out of the game type thing, and a lot of people can't do that, and it's been, I can't wait to see him play out there, honestly, so I'm kind of really ready for it. But, I told him when we first got here, man, I look up to you, man. I want to be like you, for real. You don't get to see that a lot, and so I'm just glad just to learn from him and to be here. And, man, I think, man, he's an X factor, honestly. He's the type of guy that can change the whole game, so we're going to see.
And Noah, I feel like that about you, honestly, man. And, it's easy for me to say what kind of player you are. It's easy for fans to say what kind of player you are. But from the horse's mouth himself, what kind of player is Noah Igbinoghene?
I'm a game changer. I disrupt the timing of the offense by how I play. I'm very aggressive, very physical. And, man, every time I line up, I think I'm going to win. I know I'm going to win. I prepare well. I work hard. And I just go out there, I play free, man. I don't really be thinking too much. I just go out there and control what I can control, most importantly. And I just let God do his thing, man.
And Noah, we love that word win. We're seeing a lot of that this year. And we have the Philadelphia Eagles Sunday, man. You're very familiar with these NFC East battles and how important they are, man. How much is it going to mean to you to get a second chance to go out there in Philly and give them an L?
Man, it's going to mean a lot, but like you said, we just got to go out there, we just got to work, got to go out there and play 4 quarters. We had them last game. I honestly feel like it was that last quarter that really changed everything, but that goes to show you in this league, you have to play all the way through, every single quarter. You can't just stop, and so I'm excited to go out there and play, man. I'm trying to see how we're going to do as a team, and see.
We're excited to see you out there, Noah, man. We appreciate your time. Commanders family, our next man up, our defensive back, number 1, Noah Igbinoghene. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, man.
Commanders family, for our next man up, we have a very, very special legend joining us that I hope he can bring some of that Super Bowl MVP type aura over here to us in the burgundy and gold. 11 seasons in the NFL, 2 Pro Bowls, like I said, a Super Bowl and a Super Bowl MVP, 6th round pick, but still one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play for the Redskins. Mark Rypien. Mark, how you doing, sir?
Ryan, it is absolutely an honor to be a part of this and I think bringing anything. The guys are bringing it themselves, and it's pretty fun to watch this year. I know that the faithful there in Washington have been looking for a team like this to kind of get things back on track. And led by number 5, what a year he's having. He's been special. He's been fun to watch, and it's been a good year so far. I'm going to be up there this week. I get a chance to be for the Philly game this week, and going to spend some time with family up there. My oldest daughter, and grandchildren and my youngest daughter, we're all coming up for a little Christmas cheer on the week. But we're going to be up there starting this Saturday, going to come to the game on Sunday, and hopefully they can bring some luck that week.
No better place to be than the DMV for the holidays. Yes, Mark will be our legend of the game, so you will see him on the field. We're going to talk about Jaden. We're going to talk about that. But first, Mark, we got to talk all about you. Because as I said, you're a 6th round pick. Not many times a 6th round pick turns into a Super Bowl MVP. You can't think of many, maybe only.
Tom Brady did it 5 times. So
I'm about to say you are in very good company. There's you, there's Tom Brady. And to me, I want to start there. Let's start from the very beginning, because I think hearing from you legends and your guys' stories are so important. So I like to start from the beginning. So let's go into that being a 6th round pick. You get drafted, and then your first few seasons, you're dealing with injuries. You're not playing just yet. What was that time like for you? You go in the 6th round. Nothing's promised at all for a 6th round pick. What was those first few years in the NFL like?
Well, Brian, I tell you one thing that is the most frustrating day of anyone's life, especially if you're projected maybe the 2nd round or something like that. Then you go in the 6th round. I get a call from Joe Gibbs, probably around 10 o'clock East Coast time, 7 o'clock my time, after I've been up since 7 in the morning, waiting to hear my name called. And there was a Washington, but it was the University of Washington quarterback, Hugh Millen, got called in the second round. And so kind of me, it was like kind of deflating, I mean, and then you get a call from one of the legendary coaches of all time. And you try to act cheerful, but in reality, you're just kind of depleted a little bit. And but I think it couldn't have been a better situation for me. I mean, first and foremost, I mean, they lost Joe Theismann the previous year. We all saw that horrific injury. So they brought a young quarterback like myself in. They had Jay Schrader, who played admirably in Joe's loss, the season before. And then they brought Doug in from the USFL. So I was in a great scenario there. I had a chance to learn from Jay early on. And then my mentor was Doug. It was so cool to see him and get the accolades that he obviously deserves, and to play as well as he did in that Super Bowl, especially being injured, in the first quarter of that Super Bowl. So to come there with no expectations other than say, hey, I'm just going to let her fly and see what happens. I think they saw some good things in me in the preseason. Back then, they didn't have like what they call a taxi squad. What do they call it now? Practice squad. But they made a practice squad for all of us. You kind of had some of these injuries, these quote unquote injuries that happened during the preseason. And mine were actually almost kind of funny, to think how they protected you. But it was pretty awesome. And for me to be able to watch for 2 years and really get to see first and foremost what it's like to play in the NFL, and especially at that position right there on the field, being the guy right on the sidelines, calling plays in and watching, Doug and Jay do what they did so well. I actually had to question myself whether or not I was going to be good enough. The game to me looked faster than I thought it was, and I go, oh my goodness, I don't know if I'm actually going to get this opportunity. And then Doug had the appendectomy in October of 1988. And I got a call from Joe Gibbs on a Tuesday. Hey, we'll see you tomorrow morning at practice. You're ready to go? I go, always ready, coach. I'm ready anytime something happens. Well, something did happen. You're going to be in. And so I had my chance. And again, if I wasn't ready and didn't do some of the things that I was able to do, I mean, didn't always produce wins, but I played well enough to keep myself around and was under a good supporting cast to play for a great, great franchise.
And you mentioned that self-doubt, right? You're watching these elite athletes go out there. You talk about how fast the game is. How do you shake that off? Because clearly you shook it off sometime between you getting your chance to play and that moment. You shook it off. How did you do that?
Well, you not shake it off. It's either you're going to do it or you're not going to do it. And I always think the good ones find a way to slow the game down. I think what happens a lot of the time for a quarterback when he gets in there, all he wants to do is get back there and get the ball off. Well, when you're throwing routes and they're timing routes, you practice day in and day out, and all of a sudden you speed your operation up a lot, then the timing is off and it doesn't happen. So if you're able to slow the game down and trust in the guys, first and foremost, I mean, you had the Hogs and they're the best in the business. And secondly, trust that your receivers are going to find a way to get separation. And so it became easier. I'm not saying the game's easy at all, but to slow it down as much as I was able to, and to think that, gosh, this isn't so bad after all. I think I might be okay. And then to have the athletes that we had made it that much better.
So you're sitting, you're waiting for your moment. Like you said, you wanted to make sure you were ready. So you get that call and you feel ready to go. What is your mindset going into that very first game where you got to be a starter and you didn't let that title go? So what was your mindset when you got that very first chance to start?
Well, I hope I didn't pee down my leg, when I got out there, and, because it was in Phoenix. It was about 100 degrees. It was hot. And so a lot of those things, you go through your mind, but then you trust in the process. And the process is that we had a Hall of Fame coach for a reason. We had a Hall of Fame roster for a reason, and group of guys, that made it easier for me to do what I was able to do. So I think when you put those tangibles together and go on out there and know that you're going to play, and if things aren't going well the first half, they're going to make adjustments. You're going to make adjustments, and that it's going to be okay. And we had a group of guys that knew what it was to win, how to win, and made it a lot easier for me during my first start and all the way through my career in Washington.
And it's not every day a quarterback gets to start behind the Hogs, right? Gets to be able to be protected by the best offensive line ever. In your words, what was it like getting to play with them and see them? Because you got to see them from the sideline, but then you also got to be on the field with them. What was that like?
Well, I think it just reinforced what you already knew, that, hey, these guys were going to do everything they can. Our coaching staff was going to do what they can to protect the quarterback and give you the things that you need in order to win. So, I mean, it was a process for winning. It was a situation where the reason why you had success in Washington is because there was a system that we played in, and you would play within that system, and you're vigilant about what you're doing, and you just stay with what you have to do. And obviously it's like football is like golf in a lot of ways. There's going to things happen during the course of a game that aren't going to go well. There's going to things on the golf course that are going to happen during the course of a round that's not going to go well. You got to be able to put those things aside and trust in the process. And our process was pretty doggone good.
And it's interesting because I wasn't around, of course, when the Hogs were here playing, but you hear about them a lot. And you hear brotherhood, you hear camaraderie, and you see that a lot with this offensive line that we've been able to put together. I talked to Sam Cosme, he said we're all cut from the same cloth. Is that brotherhood, is that camaraderie, is that something that you see that's very similar to what you were seeing with the Hogs?
First and foremost, you're only as good as the guys up front, Brian. I mean, Jaden's a tremendous, much more fine-tuned as an athlete than I ever was, or Doug ever was. I mean, we were pocket passers, and we played our system very well. But he also does really well in the pocket. He's also got the ability to extend plays. The one thing that I think you look at is that we had smart guys. We had guys within that offensive line that passed things down the line of scrimmage. Plus, we had guys like Ernest Biner and running backs that were very, very versed on pass protection, running routes, making sure that if they had a hot route, they made the hot route adjustment. We had wide receivers, it'd be Gary Clark or Ricky Sanders or Art Monk, that were incredible at blitz breakoffs. And they came with strong safety blitz or came with too many on one side, and we didn't have enough to block. They're able to break their route off. And so we had smart players that played in a system that enabled us to be successful.
And you mentioned those receivers, so let's talk about the posse as well. How easy did they make your life? Being able to throw to guys that is 3 number 1 receivers is crazy to have on any team. What was it like for you in your development as a quarterback, being able to throw to guys like that?
Well, I think it was 88 or 89. I think it was 89 might have been. We had 3,000-yard receivers. That's never heard of in football.
Unheard of.
And to have 3 guys do it in 1 year. I mean, I don't even think we made the playoffs that year, but these guys perform year in and year out. They never ever really bitched and moaned about their role. Art Monk was a consummate professional. Ricky Sanders was a great, slot receiver that played well. And Gary Clark was the ultimate competitor, and all these guys had their own tools that we used. And I think we used in a process that made us very successful. But none of them ever said, hey, I need the ball more. I need this. I need that. They played in our system, and our system dictated where the ball went. So if they rolled coverage to one side, you went to the other side. If they went too deep, you had a shot down the middle. So it was very, very difficult for teams to game plan us. The other thing, too, is that we had, I think, a 35 or 40-second clock at that time. We could shift and motion. And again, being smart guys they were, and having a smart team helped enable us to make sure that defenses couldn't play all these exotic defenses, because we shifted and motioned and did all the things that kept them pretty generic. So we had an opportunity. And when it came to a generic defense, you're just playing one-on-one against guys. I'm going to count on our guys to win all the time, and most of the time they did.
It's funny to hear you talk. You sound just like a quarterback, because it's about everybody else. You're showing love to everybody, even the running backs, which I love, and I think it's why the fans love you so much. But you were the Super Bowl MVP. You were part of this team that won a Super Bowl. We have not had a Super Bowl quarterback since. And so that's very, very special. When you get in that moment, when you think back now, because hindsight's everything, right? But when you get in that moment, you win that Super Bowl, all of the things you've been through, being a 6th-round pick, having to sit on the sidelines and wait your turn, not even knowing if you'd be able to perform at a high level in the NFL, then you get to this moment. What was that like for you? What's going through your head in that moment back at that time?
Well, first and foremost, they can never take that away from you and the guys you played with. I mean, unfortunately, one player has to be named the MVP. So, to do all the fun things I was able to do with my kids, go to Disneyland, go to Disney World, which was great. But it's all because of those, 51 other guys that were on that football team at that time. So, again, I was very blessed and very fortunate. I had to play well when it mattered the most, and I did. I played the best that I could. I went out there and let it all on the field, and again, they vote for something at the end, and it is a great accolade, and it's really opened some doors for a lot of things, charitable wise, for foundations and all the things that come with it. But more importantly, it gives you a chance in history to look back on a football team that was just absolutely incredible. And there was a lot of guys that were, I think as much of an MVP, and if not all of them MVP in that game as I was. But it was pretty surreal when you think about it. And you look back now and think, wow, I was a 6th-round kid from Washington State that loved the game, played the game hard, and because of that was able to reap the benefits of it because of a great team that we had and a great era of football in Washington, D.C. And to know that not only is it the last time we won a Super Bowl, we've only been to the playoffs, I think, 3 other times since that span. And that's pathetic, Ryan, when you look at it. And there's been a lot of things. Ownership, has changed, and love with Josh and the Harris Group is doing, and all the great things that they're doing. And hopefully maybe we'll get back to the RFK site there and build a new stadium back where all the magic happened, and that was a special place for us and a hard out for teams. It was a difficult out for teams to come into RFK back in the day when their fanatic fans, were just made it very difficult to play in that stadium.
Yes, sir. And it's funny, all season long, the media, coaches all over the league are trying to figure out what it takes. What's that secret sauce to build a Super Bowl team? Because so many things have to go right. So, Mark, when you look back on that team and you look back on that season, what do you think went right to lead to you guys being able to get that Super Bowl and hold that trophy up?
Well, winning your conference, obviously, and anytime you came out of the NFC East, whether it be winning the conference or, as a wild card, you had a good pedigree because that was, I think, the conference at the time was the battle tested, the one that everyone looked at. We want to be like the NFC East. So I think that was important. We knew that going in. We got off to such a hot start. Tony Kornheiser was talking about the bandwagon, just kind of the first 4 or 5 games were kind of running teams off the track, and then it kept going and kept going. Now we're 11-0, and then we lose one that kind of gets us back in check, when Dallas beat us on our home stadium. Then we got all the way to the end. We could have probably beat Philly in Philly. We kind of pulled the ranks at halftime, and but really to have to go through RFK, and that's the reason why it's been difficult for teams to go through Kansas City or whoever it may be nowadays. It's very difficult to play in those arenas, and that's why we got to get that fan base back in Washington, because if we can get that same fanatic Commander Redskin fan base back in the stadium and not be dominated by Philly people coming in this week or Dallas people. I remember 3 years ago, the stadium was 2/3 Dallas when we played a Christmas afternoon game. So if we can get that fan base back and get them rabid like they were, it's going to be very difficult. And if we get in the playoffs and we get a playoff game at home, that'd be awesome. But then eventually to win our division and be the number 1 seed so we can get a bye. And if they have to go through Washington, everyone knew there was a hard out and that they were really have to play their best in order to come out of the other end. And normally they didn't. When we got into playoffs, went deep into the playoffs, and it came through Washington, usually went to the Super Bowl. And fortunate enough, I was a part of 2 of those Super Bowl championship teams.
And Mark, you talk about that magic that you felt as you're going through these seasons and doing that. And it feels like this season has some magic to it. Not just that Hail Mary, but just everything we've seen, the new ownership, new coaching staff, all these new players come in on 1-year deals. You just haven't really seen anything like this, it feels, and it does feel like magic. When you watch this team and the way that they just turned the corner and the way that this new ownership has taken over and really brought that magic back, man, what does it make you feel like being a legend, being somebody that has made it to that promised land? What is it like watching this team?
Well, I think it starts with the upper management, and one of the things I think that Josh Harris has done and the Harris Group has done is basically said, we're just going to be the ownership part of this thing, and we're not going to muddle with football operations. We're going to let Dan Quinn and Peters do what they do best, and that's put a football team out there or make a trade in the middle of the season to make your team better. And you look at it now, I think this team is playing great football. I think they're 11th in the NFL and ranked in defense. Dan Quinn, he led the Legion of Boom for the Seattle Seahawks back in the day and has been a reputable coach. And I think people respect the heck out of him more than anyone they've had there that's, coached that team for a long, long time, since Joe Gibbs maybe even. So I think that part of it is they put the pieces in place in the non-football player side, and now you start adding some of these some of these athletes that they have, and they brought Lattimore in from the Saints. I think that is now healthy, and there's going to be a definite push towards trying to get us into the playoffs and deep into the playoffs again. And we stayed healthy. And if you stay healthy on the offensive line and you keep Jaden Daniels clean, I think it's going to be good. You look at the times we struggled this year and on offense specifically, and I think you got to look back at right after Jaden got that rib injury. He wasn't himself. You could see he wasn't himself. We struggled a little bit. You can see now that he's back to 100%, close to 100%, and he's playing at a high level again. He's completed 70% of his passes. Let's not forget that. That doesn't happen as a rookie, I mean, I didn't care much about. We played smash mouth football, play action. Let's make some big plays. We were 50% on throws downfield, which are incredible. But it was like completion percentage it's good because you have to keep the chains moving. You got to keep your defense fresh, and I think that's what he's been able to do when you complete 70% of your passes. Keep your defense fresh, so when they go out there, they're playing at a high level. You're playing at a high level. They're scoring points. They're scoring points in bundles, this year, and that's what it takes, And then their defense is feeding off that. Special teams is playing. Special teams has changed now, the kickoff thing and all that, but still. It's a big part of the game, and they're playing at high level at all three phases. And it's been fun to watch this football team grow in the years this year coming in.
And it's great that you mentioned that completion percentage and just all the things that we've been able to see Jaden Daniels do, because you watch him and it's easy to forget, this guy's a rookie. This is just his first year in a new offense. It's easy to forget that. As a Super Bowl MVP, as one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play for Washington, when you watch Jaden Daniels, have you seen anything like him from a rookie quarterback before?
Gosh, no. And I think that's why I was blessed, because I got a chance to sit and watch and learn.
Yeah.
He has been reared to be a great quarterback from probably when he's 5 years old. And the game's changed, from learning the quarterback position early on to colleges doing what they do and the pro game doing what they're doing. So, but it's still hard. Look, Caleb Williams started out pretty good, and you got to be behind a good team too. And things just unfolded there in Chicago for him. And for Jaden, I think he's just each and every game he's getting more confident. And but more importantly, he's a great kid. I mean, you look at what he represents off the field as much as he does on the field. And the kid is just solid in every way, shape, and form. So you root for guys like that. You can't but help cheer for him and for the team and for everything going on. And so it's a special, special year, and it's not by any means over. And we just need to keep going. We need to get one this week. And you get one this week against one of maybe arguably the best team and one of the best teams in the NFC and maybe in football, then I think it just is another level of how you feel about yourself, how you feel about your team, and also for the fan base to say, hey, we're not going to let a bunch of Eagles fans come down here and hopefully, get a ticket for this game and sell ours for 5 times the price of what we bought our ticket for. No, we don't need that. We want to get back to having our fans in there being rabid as possible and making it very difficult for Jalen Hurts and a very talented group coming in here from Philadelphia.
And Mark, it's fun to talk football. It's fun to talk playoffs, Super Bowl championships. It's fun to talk about all that stuff. But one of my favorite parts about Next Man Up is that we talk about the person as well, and Mark, it's great talking to you because I know that you've been very vocal about mental health and your mental health struggles and dealing with things like that. So I have to ask you, first question off the rip is, how are you doing? How are you?
Wonderful. I mean, it's like
good.
Having grandkids kind of gives you a mulligan in life, I mean, your own kids, you try to do the best you can, but hey, we all at our level, we make mistakes and but you look at the health of your own kids, the health of their kids, which are now your grandkids, and you figure to yourself, wow, how blessed can someone be, to have 2 beautiful daughters that are amazing, have 3 beautiful grandkids, another one on the way in Valentine's Day. And so it is a pretty surreal thing to know that we all have challenges in our lives, and not everyone has challenges, that they lose a child. But you lose a child at a young at a young age, having lost my son Andrew when he was 3 years old back in 1998. I mean, you go through some dark times, and through dark times, you have great people lead you through it. And through that, you also have an opportunity to help others. And so when we put the Rypien Foundation together, we had an opportunity to honor my son Andrew, help other families that our children are going through cancer, and make their experience as best as possible. So we merged with Mark Few, and who was had Coaches versus Cancer, and one of the great basketball coaches, arguably one of the best basketball coaches in college basketball. And we merged and formed the Community Cancer Fund in Spokane to honor our Andrew and honor anyone going through cancer, whether adults or children, in the greater Spokane area, and make their quality of life as good as possible with the situation they're dealt with.
And Mark, you are not only just a legend, but you're an inspiration to so many people. And I know you probably have people constantly coming up to you, not just talking about football, but talking about life. So when you have people that come to you and they say, hey, I'm struggling with mental health, man, I'm going through this thing. My child has cancer, things that, that they know that you can relate to. What advice do you give them to get through these fights, man, and just keep going? Because it's not easy.
Well, there's, different modalities, I mean, there's a lot of resources out there. Transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS treatment, is one that we should have. All veterans of our foreign wars and all people that have served our country that are going through mental health issues should have that at their VA hospitals to help them through that. Different types of blood work that people can get to find out maybe they're deficient in some area. Mark Gordon is one of the great doctors out there that tries to find things that you're deficient of and get you on the healthy supplements that are going to make your life a bit easier. Because a lot of times what they do is you go in, see a doctor, he says there's something wrong, you're wrong, get out, you get thrown out there with a bunch of opioids, and then all of a sudden you don't know if you're on foot or horseback. So if you get certain things that you can find out if you're deficient of and get on track, I think that those are some of the areas where people can help people with. HBOT, which is hyperbaric oxygen therapy, is another one that I think is beneficial to a lot of people, and natural supplements are another one. So there's all sorts of things out there, and then having grandkids is probably the best thing for mental health, to see the love in their faces and the innocence that they have, and the appreciation they have for life, and every time they see all they do is have a smile on their face, makes your day a lot better. So.
Mark, appreciate that, man. I just wanted to check in on you because, that stuff is so important, and we appreciate you for taking the time to give back. And, you don't have to, right? You've done all the things. You have the accolades, but you still go out and you try to help others, even though you've been through your own journey. So, man, we really appreciate that, Mark. And one thing you're also very familiar with is these NFC East rivalries. You mentioned earlier we're playing the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday. Huge game with a ton of playoff implications. When you look back on the good old days and you think about your battles against the Eagles, what sticks out to you the most? What memories do you have facing the Philadelphia Eagles?
I'll tell you first, but first I have to disagree with it. I think you don't have to. Yes, I think you do have to, because you have a stage. You do have to, and I think that's where we need to reach out and because one silence is what the biggest killer, I mean, we got 21 servicemen and women a day that commit suicide, and it's because of silence. No, we do have to. And I know you didn't mean it that way, but I just wanted to say that, no, it's great. And I'm glad I'm able to do so. And then it's, of course, Philadelphia Eagles, Buddy Ryan, and the body bag game, and how they just kept bringing heat and bringing heat and bringing heat. Well, eventually we figured out how we can stop Reggie White and Seth Joyner and Andre Dirty Waters and all those guys, Jerome Brown, when they brought the heat, were able to block it up. And when you got receivers as good as ours and they brought a lot of heat, a lot of time, we made some huge plays against the Eagles, and they were a well-respected NFC East opponent, as was the Giants, the Cowboys, and the Cardinals at the time. So our NFC East was very, we were battle tested, and we knew if we came out of that and we had healthy guys on the other side, we're going to be okay. And I think this is going to be a great test. It's another NFC East team that's coming in here, try to take something valuable away from us in our home. We need to protect our house, and I think our guys are going to be ready for the challenge.
And to wrap, you are receiving the honor of being the legend of the game. You won't only just be on the field again, you'll be waving the flag like a few of our other legends have done. How special is that moment going to be for you to be back?
Well, I just, to watch, to be a part of Darryl Green's jersey The celebration. Larry Brown, the great guy that played so many and paved the road for all of us Redskins that played after him. All these guys are a reminder. Sonny Jurgensen, Billy Kilmer, all the guys that have played before us and gone before us, Charlie Taylor, Bobby Mitchell, you name them. They paved the way for us, and they gave us that path to be successful. And we are extremely grateful for all those guys that played before us and gave us the tools and necessary tools to be out there and be a great Redskin, now commander in our arena. So to be part of that is great. I think, just to be in the environment and be around the fans and everything is awesome. But to have my daughter and grandkids there, and they'll be on the field. My little 6-year-old grandson just is beside himself. He can't wait. And my 15-year-old granddaughter is a two-sport athlete here and just a freshman in high school, started on the volleyball team. They won a state championship in Orlando, and I was able to be a part of that. And now she's playing basketball for Bishop Moore School here in Orlando. So to have them there and to have the family there for Christmas makes us all a family, because that Redskin team, fans, everything is a big family, and it's great to be back to that big family. And hopefully we whoop up some Eagle stew this week.
Mark, like I said, you're going to be bringing that Super Bowl MVP aura, and we appreciate it so much. I know the fans are so excited to see you, man. Thank you for everything you've done on the field. Thank you for everything you continue to do off of the field, and thank you so much for joining Next Man Up, Mark. I really appreciate you, bro.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate you too, and I'll see you this week.
Yes, sir. Let's get this win Sunday. Commanders family, our next man up, one of the greatest to ever do it and play quarterback for the Redskins, Mark Rypien. Mark, thank you, brother.
Cheers.
Commanders family, we appreciate you joining us on this episode of Next Man Up. Now, if you want to catch other episodes during your holiday break, you can catch those on the Commanders YouTube page or stream the audio wherever you get your podcast. Happy holidays, Commanders family. I'll see y'all next Friday. I'm Brian Colbert Jr., and this is Next Man Up.